So I'm in conversation with Conrad Burke. Conrad is co-founder and managing director of Meta VC Partners, a venture capital firm based in San Francisco, investing in startups using advanced materials, including, of course, Metamaterials. Conrad, welcome.
Hi, Alastair. Great to see you.
Now, you've been a great supporter of Metamaterials in the UK, but I'd like to talk to you about your experience with Metamaterials spin-outs in the US. Could you tell us what really first sparked your interest in metamaterials and how you became involved in the field?
Yeah, I think I studied physics undergraduate and postgraduate. I never heard the word metamaterials until later in my career. I would be probably classified as a semiconductor jock. I spent much of my career in optoelectronics and semiconductors. And when I stumbled across metamaterials a few years ago, I think I was just fascinated with the ability of these materials to do pretty wondrous things. I do want to emphasize that I was always fascinated by marketing. So I think the ability to see market needs and technology availability and sort of bridge those two things together, I think that's probably the things that I'm most fascinated with.
And what do you think kind of turned you on into the world of technology and innovation?
Yeah, well, there's one thing: innovation never stops. I'm from Europe, like yourself, but I live here in Silicon Valley the last 25 years, and I think it goes without saying that that is an epicenter of innovation. It always has been, and so I've always been excited about new markets, new products, new ways of doing things, cheaper, faster, better. And, if it makes the world a better place along the way, that's also a good thing.
And turning now to your role at Meta VC Partners, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the portfolio of companies that you're involved with. What excites you most about these companies?
Well, of course, I'm excited about all of our companies. We have 11 investments in our fund. They're all early stage companies. A lot of them, in fact, most of them are spin outs from universities like the one that you're in, Alastair. We like to think we've got a good eye for the technology. We've got the relationships to get access to it first. That's sort of the real crux with venture capital. Get there early, get there before anybody else. It's a pretty competitive business. So we have spawned 11 companies which range in markets from computing to imaging to sensors used in transport and cars and robots, humanoids. We like acoustic metamaterials, which is a big strength that I believe I know the UK has in particular among many. We like acoustic metamaterials. We just made an investment in a haptics company spin out from Princeton University where you can actually, you can generate the sensation of touch of materials, which puts itself into all sorts of markets in robotics and gaming and all sorts of applications. But we have a pretty broad spectrum of metamaterial companies which go into big billion-dollar markets.
So what do you think the most important factors are for successfully translating metamaterials from the in terms of the research from the university lab into viable products?
First of all, there's no shortage of technology. There's no shortage of papers. There's no shortage of innovation happening in universities all across the world and in the UK. And in particular, when it comes down to metamaterials, there's an enormous growth in research and development and engineering in metamaterials, not just in the UK, not just in the US, but we're seeing for the first time last year at the World Metamaterials Conference, China has surpassed the number of papers being written in metamaterials than any of the other nations that I mentioned. But what it comes down to is we're not short of technology. The question is, can you find someone to run this technology, to go build a company, to have the tenacity and the charm and the capability, the soft skills, if you will, to be able to cajole and convince an investor to invest in your project, to turn it into a company, which hopefully will be worth billions of dollars. Venture capital is a swing for the fences, not interested in making a few bucks. It's about how do you make 10x returns on your money, for example. So it's about finding the marrying of that individual with the technology and pushing that thing forward.
Now, if we just broaden the discussion out a little bit now internationally, what I'm looking to understand is how you compare the ecosystem for research, technology and innovation in the UK versus the US. I mean, are there particular strengths or approaches in each country that stand out to you?
When I see what the difference between the UK and the US, I think the access to capital and the risk-taking nature with venture capital and the volume of venture capital that's available is a lot different in the US than it is in the UK, and that is one fundamental difference. And while it might be a little bit easier in terms of the amount of capital up for grabs in the US versus the UK, um, a lot of startups still have to bridge their way to getting to that capital. So they're using grants from the United States government, whether it's the Department of Defense, National Science Foundation, small business grants, and so forth. Those are hugely important pockets of money that bridge a company to getting the first venture capital. And so getting back to the UK question, it's not clear to me that there's enough different resources of that types of I just described in the US in the UK. So, I would implore upon those in Westminster and those in power to sort of, look to other nations, perhaps as how perhaps additional capital could be deployed from defense budgets for medical devices and so forth. How that could be put into seeding some of these opportunities, some great opportunities that we see in UK universities.
And any plans to invest in the UK at any point in the future?
Absolutely, there is. We haven't made an investment in the UK yet. We're not at the stage and scale as a fund, but in subsequent funds, we will more than likely invest in overseas, and probably the UK would be the first port of call.
Well, Conrad, thank you very much for your time today. Conrad Burke, their co-founder and managing director of Meta VC Partners.